A small child sits in the dirt outside a cave. This is northern Spain, a very long time ago. Something is wrong with the shape of the child's head. One side of the skull is too high. The other side is pushed flat. The whole face looks crooked, with one eye lower than the other. The child is about 6 years old and cannot do what other kids that age can do, while the others learn to find food and look after themselves. This child stays close to the grown-ups, and the grown-ups let it happen. They share their food, and they carry the child when the group moves on. This child lived about 400,000 years ago. The child was an early kind of human, from before people like us, called Homo heidelbergensis. The odd shape of the head made life very hard, but that same head is the reason we know this child's story today. Scientists found the skull in Spain, in a place called the Pit of Bones. The bones came out in tiny pieces. A scientist named Ana Gracia spent 2 years putting them back together. In 2009, she and her team shared what they had learned. The child had a problem with a long name, craniosynostosis. In plain words, some of the bones in the skull joined together too soon, before the baby was even born. That pushed the growing head out of shape. It is the oldest case of this ever found. And it did more than bend the skull. It most likely made it hard for the child to move and to think. Think about what that means. A child like this could not live alone in such a hard world. A hurt grown-up might heal one day and help the group again, but a sick child has nothing to give back. The grown-ups fed and carried this child anyway, year after year, and got nothing in return. We cannot be fully sure of any of this. Bones cannot show us love, and other ideas are possible. Still, a disabled child who lived to age 6, almost 500,000 years ago, is one of the oldest clues we have. It hints that early humans did not leave their weakest behind. So here's the big question. How did ancient people treat those who could not keep up? This was long before hospitals or doctors, and long before anyone wrote down rules about who gets cared for. What happened to people who could not take care of themselves? The answer goes back almost as far as humans do. And it was not always easy to see. Sometimes the care was small and quiet. Travel to a place called Dmanisi in the country of Georgia. In 2005, a scientist named David Lord Kipanidze and his team found a very old skull there. It had almost no teeth. Just one was left. The empty spots in the jaw had healed over and gone smooth. That only happens if a person lives for years with no teeth. He was an old man. He lived about 1.77 million years ago. He could only eat soft food. Maybe he found that food himself, or maybe someone made it soft and put it in his hand. We do not know which way it was. We do know that he kept eating and he kept living. Now meet the most famous case of all. His nickname is Nandi. His bones were found in Shanidar Cave in the mountains of northern Iraq. A scientist named Ralph Selecki dug them up in 1957. Nandi was a Neanderthal who lived about 45,000 years ago. A blow to the face had crushed one eye and likely left him blind on that side. His right arm was thin and weak, and the lower part was gone. One leg was hurt, so he walked with a limp. Then, in 2017, Eric Trinkus and Sebastian Villat found something new. Extra bone, deep in his ears. The kind that makes a person go deaf. So picture this man, half blind, deaf, with only one good arm and a bad limp. And still he lived into his 40s, in a land that was full of big cats and cave bears. He did not live that long by luck. The scientists who studied him say he most likely could not have made it without his group. The bones only prove that he lived a long time. The kindness is what we add to the story. And Nandi is not the only one. All across the Neanderthal world, scientists keep finding the same thing. Bodies that were badly hurt, then healed, then lived on for years. In 2018, a scientist named Penny Spikins wrote about this with her team. For a long time, people thought Neanderthals were dumb brutes, and that idea changed the way their wounds were read. Look again without it, Spikins says, and you see real care. In a cave in southern Italy, scientists found a young man. He died about 11,000 years ago, when he was around 17 or 20. He was very small, with a kind of dwarfism, and his is the oldest known case of it. His short arms and legs made hard work almost impossible for him. A scientist named David Freyer first wrote about him in the 1980s. Freyer said the young man only lived because his people carried him. Then another scientist named Detweiler said to slow down. Living a long time does not prove care all by itself. You cannot read a whole group's heart from one set of bones. Later, Freyer took his own claim back. Think about that. The scientist who told the story changed his mind. Then a scientist named Lorna Tilley studied the same bones again, very carefully. That is science doing its job. It is the reason the cases that pass a second look are the ones worth trusting. Now let's travel to the Arabian Gulf, to a place called Tel Abrak. About 4,000 years ago, a young woman lived there. She was around 18. As a teenager, she caught a disease called polio. It left her paralyzed from the waist down, and she never walked again. This is the oldest known case of polio in the world. The Bronze Age desert was a hot, hard place to live, and a young woman who could not walk would have needed help with almost everything. And she got it. She lived for years after she fell sick. Her people fed her and moved her long after her body had stopped working. The clearest case of all is in Vietnam. At a village site called Man Bac, scientists found a young man in a grave. He had been paralyzed for years, maybe his whole life, from something he was likely born with. He could not feed himself or even roll over on his own. In 2011, Lorna Tilley and a scientist named Oxenham used him to build a careful way to study care in the past. The idea is simple. First, you find out what was wrong with the body. Then you ask what help that person would have needed to stay alive. You write down every step so other people can check your work. And with this young man, there is no other answer left. At Dmanisi, you could argue the old man ate soft food on his own. Here, you cannot. Someone fed this young man every single day and moved his body for him for years in a farming village 10,000 years ago. The only thing that kept him alive was other people. So go back to that child in Spain, the one with the crooked head. People fed that child and carried that child for years, and they got nothing back for it. For hundreds of thousands of years, this was part of who we are. Long before medicine, long before kindness even had a name, people cared for those who could not care for themselves. They did not always manage it, and not in every place. Even so, they did it far more often and far earlier than we ever thought. We were never only the strong. We just forgot how far back the caring goes.